Welcome to my channel, and today on Modified 4x4 we're going to swap out this tiny little shock tower bracket for this one here. So the goal is pretty simple today. This is where the old one goes off here. I've already unbolted it. But the bracket that it mounts onto has basically got to get cut off. So I've got to cut this bracket off here, and then this can go in place. I can hold it on there with a couple of clamps and then weld her into place. Alright, so I've almost got it done. I'm not real sure about this bit here, whether I've got to retain that type of bracket, so I've just got to cut that off. A little bit of jigging around on there. But basically we're almost there. Let's do it. Let's clean it up, let's get it done, and let's mount up the shock tower and see how she looks. So look, here it is. I've basically got it on there now. It's just held on there by this clamp, and basically all I've got to do now is mark out where it's where I need to clean up, and around there, and a bit of a gap there, but I think I can weld that all right. So I've made a mistake here. As you can see, there's way too much gap there. So basically we're just got to I'm going to cut that off basically and weld in a new one for a bit of a brace onto the chassis. So it's super important that you clean up your work before you weld on it. I like to use these Scotch-Brite pads here on the grinder disc. I've also got a little die grinder with one for little with smaller and tighter spaces. So let's get to work. So the plan is, I'm going to hold this into place using this clamp here, and then make sure it's all lined up where I want it, tack her into position, and then weld her up. So I'm not 100% happy with how the factory old brackets are on there, and I'm glad I made a mistake on the other one, because I actually want to do the same thing over there. So I'm going to redesign my own bracket up and weld on the inside of the shock tower to make it just look a little bit more neater. Okay, so full disclaimer, I'm not an expert. I'm not a welder by trade. I'm not a mechanic by trade. I'm just an enthusiast that wants to do these sort of things for himself, have a go, and I seek the advice from the experts, and I try and do things the right way, the best I possibly can. Now, having said that, let's run through why I went with the extended shock towers, the Welding kind, why you might want to consider them and why you might not want to. So the first and biggest reason as to why I went for the extended shock towers, the Welding kind, is I did a little bit of research. There are spaces you can get for your standard ones that you can just bolt into place underneath the standard towers. You can also buy bolt-in extended towers, I think out to like 75mm, correct me if I'm wrong. But I went with the Weld-in kind because it adds a little bit of strength to the whole structure of your coil tower and shock tower all in one piece. Now I know I'm going to get the question, what length shock are you going to go with? The answer to that is simply I don't know yet. I need to finish the build. The shocks are the last thing that are going to go on this My frame of mind is I like to do things properly, even though they might not be the right way of going about it. In my mind, they're the right way, and for me, the shocks are the last thing to go in. So after the build's finished, I basically find the minimum bump length, and then I'll measure the shock length from there, and then we're going to go out to the extended length and possibly have to put in limiting straps. So once the build's finished, I'm just going to pull the chassis up, I'm going to pull the springs out, and I'm just going to set it down on the bumps. Now I am going to go hydraulic bump stops with this, so I'm going to make sure that I get the right length bump stop as well, so that the bump stop and the shock hit full bump at around about the same time. So this will all be measured, this will all be done what I think is the right way, and this is the way that you should measure your shocks into your four-wheel drive. I am going to go with hydraulic bump stops. I need to cut out a piece in the middle of the shock, the spring, and weld in a little coupler that will house the hydraulic bump stop. Now I don't know what hydraulic bump stop I want to go with either. I've got to outsource that and figure out what kind of bump stop that I can go with that, and figure out, of course, from there what length shock I can go, because they do work together. So I hope that by watching this video you're not discouraged by having a go yourself and actually doing the sort of work that you yourself, if you can afford a good welder and a couple of grinding discs to get you by, you can do this. This is easy to do. It's frustrating at times. I've had to grind back a couple of my welds a couple of times to make sure they look right and that they're strong. And but my point is that you can do this. You can absolutely do this. So if you haven't done so already, hit the like button and hit the follow button. There's going to be more of this build to come in the future videos. We're going to be putting in a full link into the rear end of this, so that'll be coming up next over the next few weeks, and I'll see you later.